The morning it happened started like any other, quiet, predictable, painfully ordinary. I remember the smell of burnt toast lingering in the kitchen, the ticking clock on the wall sounding louder than usual, like it was counting down to something I couldn't yet see. My wife, Emily, stood by the sink, her back turned to me, her hair tied loosely, strands falling over her neck the way I used to love. Used to. Running late? I asked, forcing casual into my voice as I tightened my tie. She didn't turn. Yeah, big meeting today. She always had big meetings lately. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Something in the air felt off, but I had ignored that feeling for months. Maybe longer. Marriage does that. It teaches you how to ignore the cracks until they become canyons. Don't wait up, she added. I laughed softly. I never do. That wasn't a joke. She grabbed her purse, kissed the air near my cheek, not even touching me, and walked out. The front door shut with a hollow echo that lingered longer than it should have. I stood there alone, staring at the door. Something wasn't right. But I went to work anyway. Because that's what men like me do. We keep going, even when our instincts scream at us to stop. I work in construction management. Nothing glamorous, just long hours, heavy responsibility, and the constant pressure of deadlines. It's the kind of job that keeps your hands busy and your mind distracted. Which is exactly what I needed. Or thought I needed. Around noon, I got a call. Private number. I almost ignored it, almost. Hello. Silence. Then a voice, male, low, calm. You should go home. I frowned. Who is this? Click. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, waiting for it to ring again. It didn't. Probably a prank, I told myself. But something twisted in my gut. You should go home. Why would someone say that? I tried to shake it off, but the words kept replaying in my head like a broken record. My focus slipped. I made mistakes. I snapped at one of my workers for something minor. By 2 p.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I told my assistant I wasn't feeling well and left early. The drive home felt longer than usual. Every red light seemed intentional. Every slow driver felt like an obstacle placed directly in my path. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, my knuckles turning white. I didn't know what I was expecting. But I knew something was waiting for me. And I was right. I turned onto my street and immediately saw it. A black Cadillac, parked directly in front of my driveway, blocking the gate. My heart skipped. No, more like it slammed against my ribs. I slowed down, staring at the car. It was sleek, expensive, the kind of car that didn't belong in our modest neighborhood. The windows were tinted dark enough that I couldn't see inside. I pulled over, engine still running. This wasn't normal. Nothing about this was normal. I grabbed my phone, debating whether to call Emily. Then I stopped. No. I needed to see for myself. I stepped out of the car. The air felt heavier, thicker, like walking into a storm you can't see yet. I approached the Cadillac slowly, my eyes scanning every detail. The engine was off, no visible movement inside. But I wasn't alone. I could feel it. That strange instinct again. I walked past the car toward my gate. And that's when I heard it. Laughter. From inside my house. A man's laughter. And Emily's voice. Soft, intimate. Different. I froze. Every muscle in my body locked. No. No, no, no. My brain scrambled for excuses. Maybe a coworker. Maybe a relative. Maybe. Then I heard it. Her laugh. The one she used to have with me. Not the polite one, not the distant one. The real one. And it wasn't for me anymore. My vision blurred. My chest tightened. But I kept moving. Because once you reach this point, there's no turning back. I unlocked the gate manually and pushed it open just enough to slip through. My hands were shaking now. The front door was slightly open. I didn't remember leaving it that way. I stepped inside. And everything changed. The living room was a mess. Clothes on the floor. Not mine. A man's jacket draped over the couch. 2 wine glasses on the table. Half empty. My heart pounded louder. Each step felt heavier than the last as I moved toward the bedroom. The door was closed, but I didn't need to open it. I already knew. Still, I reached for the handle and turned it. Time stopped. There she was. My wife, Emily, sitting on our bed. Not alone. A man sat beside her, shirtless, relaxed, like he belonged there. Like this was his home. His hand rested casually on her thigh. And she didn't move it. She didn't look ashamed. She didn't look scared. She just looked calm. Like she had been expecting this moment. Like she knew I would eventually walk in. Our eyes met. And for a split second, I saw something flicker across her face. Not guilt. Not regret. Just annoyance. "You're early," she said. Those 3 words hit harder than anything I had ever experienced. Not "I'm sorry." Not "this isn't what it looks like." Just, "You're early." Like I was the inconvenience. Like I had interrupted something that belonged to them. My fists clenched. I couldn't breathe. "What is this?" I managed to say. The man beside her smirked. Actually smirked. He didn't move, didn't cover himself, didn't act like he was in someone else's home. He leaned back slightly, studying me. Like I was the outsider. Emily sighed, as if tired of explaining something obvious. "I was going to tell you." "When?" my voice cracked, after he moved in. She rolled her eyes. That broke something inside me. "You've been distant for years," she said. "Don't act surprised." I stared at her. Years? Was that her justification? "You could have left," I said, my voice low now, dangerous. "I didn't want to deal with the mess," she replied coldly. The man chuckled. And that's when I noticed something else. Footsteps. Behind me. I turned. 2 large men stood in the hallway. I hadn't heard them enter. Both dressed in black, both watching me with expressions that made my blood run cold. Not friends. Not family. Enforcers. "What is this?" I asked again, this time louder. The shirtless man finally spoke. "Relax," he said smoothly. "No one's here to hurt you unless you make it complicated." I looked at Emily. She didn't deny it. Didn't even react. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just an affair. This was something planned. Controlled. Calculated. "Who are they?" I asked. She hesitated for the first time. And that hesitation told me everything. The man stood up slowly, pulling on his shirt like he had all the time in the world. "My name's Victor," he said, extending a hand like we were meeting at a business lunch. "And your wife, well, she's been working with me." Working. That word echoed in my head. "In what?" I asked. He smiled. "In something that requires assets." I didn't take his hand. "What kind of assets?" His eyes flicked around the room. Then back to me. "This house, for starters." The ground shifted beneath me. "What?" Emily stood up now, crossing her arms. "It's not just the house," she said quietly. I stared at her, trying to process. "What did you do?" She didn't answer immediately. "Victor did." "She signed some papers," he said casually. "Investment opportunities, loans, you know how it goes." "No," I snapped, "I don't." He shrugged. "Well, you're about to learn." I felt the walls closing in. "How much?" I asked. Emily looked away. Victor smiled wider. "Let's just say, more than you can pay." My entire world collapsed in that moment. This wasn't just betrayal. This was destruction. Calculated. Deliberate. And I was standing in the middle of it, unarmed. Alone. Or so they thought. I took a slow breath. Then another. My heart was still racing, but something else was rising now. Something colder. Something sharper. "You planned all of this," I said quietly. Emily didn't respond. Victor tilted his head. "Smart man," he said. The 2 men behind me shifted slightly. Waiting. Watching. Expecting me to break. To yell. To beg. To lose control. But I didn't. Because in that moment, I realized something they didn't. They thought they had already won. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. And that was their first mistake. I looked at Emily one last time. Really looked. Trying to find the woman I had married. She wasn't there. Not anymore. In her place stood someone else. Someone colder. Someone capable of this. All right, I said. Victor raised an eyebrow. That's it, he asked. I nodded slowly. That's it. He studied me, trying to read something. Anything. But I gave him nothing. Because the moment I walked out of that house, I wasn't going to be the victim anymore. I was going to be something far worse. And they had just started a war they weren't ready for. I turned and walked toward the door. The two men stepped aside, letting me pass. Confident. Too confident. Behind me, I heard Emily say my name. Softly. For the first time that day. I didn't stop. Because whatever she had to say. It was already too late. Outside, the black Cadillac sat silently under the fading sun. I looked at it. Then at my house. Then at the life I had just lost. And I smiled. Not because I was happy. But because I finally understood something. They had taken everything from me. And that meant I had nothing left to lose. And that's exactly when a man becomes dangerous. Very dangerous. I got into my car. Started the engine. And as I drove away, I made a promise. Not to them. Not to Emily. But to myself. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. And by the time I was done, they would regret ever blocking my gate. They would regret stepping into my life. And most of all, they would regret underestimating me. Because betrayal doesn't break a man like me. It creates something else. Something colder. Something patient. Something that doesn't forgive. And I was just getting started. The city looked different that night. Not because anything had changed, but because I had. Streetlights flickered past my windshield like silent witnesses. Every passing car felt irrelevant. Every familiar road now carried a strange, distant weight, like I was driving through a life that no longer belonged to me. I didn't go back. Not to the house. Not to Emily. Not to that version of myself. Instead, I drove. No destination, no plan. Just distance. Because distance was the only thing keeping me from turning around and doing something irreversible. I ended up at a bar I hadn't visited in years. A place from before my marriage. Before everything got quiet. The neon sign still buzzed above the entrance, the same cracked sidewalk, the same heavy wooden door. I sat in my car for a moment, staring at it. Funny how life circles back. I stepped out and walked in. The smell hit me first, beer, smoke, and something older, something worn into the walls over time. Voices blended into a dull roar. No one looked at me twice. Good. I needed that. I slid onto a stool at the far end of the bar. Whiskey, I said. No ice. The bartender nodded, poured, and pushed the glass toward me. I didn't sip it. I downed it. It burned going down. I welcomed that. Because it reminded me I could still feel something. You look like hell. The voice came from my left. I turned. And for the first time that day, something unexpected happened. Recognition. Marcus, I said. He smirked, took you long enough. Marcus Hale. Marcus Hale. I hadn't seen him in over a decade. Back when life was simpler. Back when problems had clear solutions. Back when betrayal got handled differently. He looked older, harder. A faint scar ran along his jawline, and his eyes carried that same sharp awareness I remembered. You still alive? He asked. Barely, I replied. He chuckled, figured. He gestured to the bartender, 2 more. We didn't waste time on small talk. Men like us don't. What happened? He asked. I stared at the glass in front of me. Then I told him. Everything. The call. The Cadillac. Emily. Victor. The two men. The house. The debt. All of it. I didn't dramatize it. Didn't need to. The truth was already ugly enough. Marcus didn't interrupt once. He just listened. And when I finished, he leaned back, exhaling slowly. Well, he said, that's a mess. I let out a hollow laugh. That's one way to put it. He studied me for a moment. You thinking of doing something stupid? He asked. I looked at him. Depends on your definition. His eyes narrowed slightly. Violence won't fix this, he said. No, I agreed, but it might balance it. He didn't smile. Victor, he said, you know who he is. I shook my head. Marcus tapped his fingers on the bar. I might. That got my attention. What do you mean? He leaned closer, lowering his voice. There's a guy operating in this region. Goes by Victor, not his real name, obviously, runs a network. What kind of network? Marcus looked around briefly. Then back at me. Financial traps, property takeovers, fraud dressed up as investment opportunities. My stomach tightened. That's him. Marcus nodded slowly. Yeah, thought so. I felt my jaw clench. So this is what he does, finds people like my wife and what? Manipulates them. Marcus shook his head. No, people like your wife. He paused, choosing his words carefully. They're not victims in this. That hit. Hard. You're saying she knew. I'm saying, Marcus replied, this kind of operation doesn't work unless someone on the inside lets it. Inside. Emily. The word echoed. I looked down at my hands. They were steady now. Too steady. That house, I said quietly, it's gone, isn't it? Marcus didn't sugarcoat it. Probably. I closed my eyes for a moment. Not in pain. In calculation. Because something was shifting inside me. Grief was fading. Anger was sharpening. And beneath it all, something colder was forming. What would you do? I asked. Marcus didn't answer immediately. He took a sip of his drink. Then set it down. If it were me, he said. I nodded. He leaned in slightly. I wouldn't go after the betrayal first. I frowned, then what? I'd go after the structure. That word stuck. Structure. What do you mean? Marcus' voice dropped even lower. Guys like Victor don't operate alone. They've got systems, paper trails, people, weak points. He tapped the bar lightly. You take down the structure, everything else collapses. I stared at him. You're talking about something bigger than revenge. He met my gaze. I'm talking about control. The room felt quieter. Or maybe it was just me focusing. You think I can do that? I asked. Marcus smirked slightly. I think you're the kind of guy who doesn't stop once he starts. He wasn't wrong. Why help me? I asked. He shrugged. I hate guys like Victor. That was reason enough. We sat in silence for a moment. Then I asked the question that mattered. Where do I start? Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out a small notepad. He wrote something down. Tore the page. Slid it across the bar. Address, he said. I looked at it. An office building. Downtown. What is this? One of his front operations, Marcus replied. Not the main hub, but connected. I folded the paper and put it in my pocket. And you're sure? He nodded. Nothing's ever 100%, he said, but it's a lead. A lead. That was all I needed. I stood up. Marcus raised an eyebrow. That fast. I looked at him. I've already lost too much time. He nodded slowly. Fair enough. I placed some cash on the bar. Then paused. Marcus. Yeah. I hesitated. Then said it. If this goes bad. He smirked. It will. I almost smiled. Outside, the air felt colder. Sharper. Like the city itself knew something was coming. I got into my car again. But this time, I had direction. As I drove toward downtown, my mind replayed everything. Emily's face. Victor's smile. The two men in black. The house. The laughter. The betrayal. Each memory no longer hurt the same way. They fueled something. Focused it. Refined it. I wasn't going back to fix my marriage. That was dead. Buried the moment I opened that bedroom door. No. This was something else now. This was about taking back control. Piece by piece. I parked a block away from the address Marcus gave me. The building stood tall, glass reflecting the city lights. Clean. Professional. Legitimate. At least on the surface. I stepped out, adjusted my jacket, and walked toward it. Every step deliberate. Every breath controlled. Inside, the lobby was quiet. Too quiet. A receptionist sat behind the desk, typing. She looked up briefly as I approached. "Can I help you?" she asked. I gave a small, polite smile. "I'm here about an investment consultation." She nodded. "Do you have an appointment?" I shook my head. "No, but I was told walk-ins are welcome." She hesitated, then picked up the phone. "Let me check." As she spoke quietly into the receiver, I glanced around. Cameras. Too visible. Probably more hidden. Security door behind her. Keycard access. Clean setup. Organized. Structured. Marcus was right. She hung up. "They can see you," she said. "Third floor, room 312. I nodded. "Thank you." The elevator ride felt longer than it was. Each floor number lighting up slowly. 1, 2, 3. Ding. The doors opened. And as I stepped out, I felt it again. That same instinct from earlier. The one that told me nothing about this was going to be simple. Room 312. The door was slightly open. I pushed it and stepped inside. A man sat behind a desk. Not Victor, but similar energy. Calm, controlled, dangerous in a quieter way. He looked up and smiled. "Welcome," he said. "Have a seat." I closed the door behind me and sat down. "Thank you," I said. He studied me for a moment, then leaned back. "What can we help you with today?" I met his gaze. And for the first time since this started, I smiled. "Information," I said. Because while they thought I was just another desperate man walking into their system, they had no idea. I was already planning how to burn it down from the inside. And this meeting. This was just step 1. By the time the sun came up, I had already made 3 decisions. None of them could be undone. I didn't go home. Not that house. That place wasn't mine anymore. It was a transaction, a trap, a stage where I had played the fool. Instead, I checked into a cheap motel on the edge of the city. The kind of place that didn't ask questions and didn't remember faces. Room 27. Faded curtains, a flickering lamp, a bed that creaked even when I stood still. Perfect. Because I wasn't here to rest. I was here to rebuild. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the notepad Marcus had given me. The address. Room 312. The beginning. I had already walked into their world once. Now I needed to understand it. Break it. Own it. I pulled out my phone. No missed calls. No messages. Emily hadn't tried to reach me again. That told me everything. She wasn't worried. She wasn't scared. She thought this was over. That I'd disappear quietly. That I'd accept it. That I'd fold. I smiled. Because that assumption was going to destroy her. By noon, I was back downtown. Different clothes. Different posture. Different energy. No longer the man who walked into that office yesterday looking for answers. Now I walked in like I already had them. The receptionist looked up again. Recognition flickered briefly. "You're back," she said. I nodded calmly. "Follow-up meeting." She hesitated, then picked up the phone. Moments later, she nodded. "Go ahead. Room 312. Same door. Same quiet tension." I stepped inside. The man behind the desk looked up. He smiled again. But this time, it didn't feel the same. Because now I understood what that smile meant. Control. Manipulation. Ownership. "Back so soon?" he asked. I closed the door behind me. And locked it. That caught his attention. "Didn't want interruptions," I said calmly. He leaned back slightly. "You're learning," he said. I sat down, placed both hands on the desk, and looked him directly in the eyes. "I want in." Silence. Not long. But enough. His expression didn't change much. But I saw it. That small shift. Interest. "What exactly do you think this is?" he asked. "A system," I replied. "One that makes money off people who don't see it coming." He tilted his head slightly. "And why would you want to be part of that?" I leaned forward. "Because I've already seen how it works." His eyes narrowed. "Have you?" I didn't blink. "My wife is working with Victor." That landed. He studied me more carefully now. Different now. No longer just a random client. Now I was something else. A variable. "And how do you feel about that?" he asked. I leaned back slowly. "Impressed," I said. That surprised him. "Impressed," he repeated. I nodded. It takes intelligence to pull something like this off. Planning, precision. I paused. Execution. He tapped his fingers on the desk. "Or desperation," he said. I shrugged. Same result. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, "Why should we trust you?" he asked. I smiled slightly. "You shouldn't." That answer. He liked. I could see it. "But you should use me," I continued. "How?" he asked. I leaned forward again. "Because I know what it feels like to be on the other side." His eyes locked onto mine. "And that gives me an advantage." The room felt tighter now. More focused. More dangerous. "And what exactly are you offering?" he asked. I didn't hesitate. "Access." "To what?" "Myself." He raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "I was the target," I said calmly. "I know the emotional pattern, the blind spots, the trust points." I tapped the desk lightly. "I can find others like me." He went quiet. Thinking. Calculating. Exactly what I wanted. "You're suggesting recruitment," he said. I nodded. Expansion. Another long silence. Then finally. He smiled. But this time, it wasn't polite. It was sharp. "Victor might like you," he said. I didn't react. "Set it up," I replied. He leaned forward slightly. "Careful," he said. "Once you're in, there's no stepping out." I met his gaze. "I'm counting on that." That was the moment. The exact moment everything shifted. I wasn't on the outside anymore. I wasn't chasing them. I was inside. 3 days later. I saw Victor again. Same confidence. Same calm presence. Same smile that thought it owned everything. But this time, I wasn't standing in my ruined home. I was sitting across from him in his world. At his table. "Well," he said, leaning back in his chair, "this is unexpected." I nodded. "Is it?" He studied me. Longer than before. "You don't look broken," he said. "I'm not," I replied. Emily was there too. Standing off to the side. Watching. Her expression. Different now. Confused. Curious. Uncertain. Good. What do you want? Victor asked. I leaned forward slightly. To work with you. Emily's eyes widened. Just slightly. But I saw it. Victor chuckled softly. That's bold. I shrugged. So was what you did to me. Silence. Heavy now. And why would I allow that? He asked. I looked him dead in the eyes. Because I'm not here for revenge. That was a lie. But it was a necessary one. I'm here for opportunity, I added. Victor smiled slowly. Dangerous. You might just be useful, he said. And just like that, the door opened. Weeks passed. Then months. I became part of the system. Learned everything. Every layer. Every connection. Every weakness. The structure Marcus talked about. I mapped it. Piece by piece. Quietly. Patiently. Emily tried to talk to me twice. I ignored her both times. Because she wasn't part of the plan anymore. She was just collateral. Victor trusted me. That was his biggest mistake. Because while he saw an asset, I saw an opportunity. And then, the moment came. It started small. A delayed transfer. A misplaced document. A corrupted file. Nothing obvious. Nothing traceable. Then bigger. Accounts flagged. Partners questioning. Deals collapsing. The structure began to crack. Victor noticed. Of course he did. He wasn't stupid. You seeing this? He asked one night, tossing a file onto the table. I glanced at it. Looks like internal failure, I said. He frowned. We don't have internal failure. I met his gaze. Then you do now. That was the beginning of the end. Within 2 weeks, everything unraveled. Authorities got involved. Investigations opened. Accounts frozen. Assets seized. The empire collapsed. Not in flames, but in silence. Which was worse? Victor was arrested. Dragged out of his own office. The same office where he thought he controlled everything. And Emily. She showed up at the motel. Room 27. I opened the door. She looked different. No confidence. No control. Just desperation. Please, she said. One word. Too late. They're saying everything is gone, she continued. The house, the money, everything. I stared at her. Calm. Cold. What did you expect? I asked. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't know it would go this far. That's the problem, I interrupted. You didn't know. She stepped closer. Did you do this? She whispered. I held her gaze. And for the first time since everything began, I told the truth. Yes. She staggered back slightly. Like the word hit her physically. Why? She asked. I stepped forward. Just enough. Because you didn't just betray me, I said quietly. You tried to erase me. Silence. Heavy. Final. I loved you, she whispered. I shook my head. No, I said. You loved what I built. She broke then. Crying. Shaking. Falling apart. But I felt nothing. Because the man she betrayed was already gone. I closed the door. And walked away. No house. No wife. No past. But something else instead. Control. Weeks later, I stood on a rooftop overlooking the city. The same city that watched everything fall apart. Marcus stood beside me. You did it, he said. I nodded. Yeah. He glanced at me. Feel better. I thought about it. Really thought. Then shook my head. No. He smirked slightly. Didn't think so. We stood in silence for a moment. Was it worth it? He asked. I looked out at the skyline. Light stretching endlessly. Then I answered. They'll never do it to anyone else again. Marcus nodded slowly. That's something. Yeah, it was. Because in the end, this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about balance. And balance had been restored. But the cost, everything. And that's the truth no one tells you. Sometimes, winning still leaves you empty. But at least now, I was the one walking away. And this time, no one was blocking my path.